Hey, it is Monday the 5th, 7:40 p.m. Did not do an update yesterday. Yesterday woke up, got started 4:30, got off of Kearsarge Pass. It was a little bit slow going. Roadrunner was moving a little bit slow. She's now flipped up to Chester, left last night. Talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But got down off of Kearsarge. The road walk was really fun. So it was 7.5 miles off trail to get to the trailhead. And then another 5 miles from there, we went down the road. And that was actually a whole lot of fun. The nice thing about road walks is that everybody can walk side by side and you can have a whole group conversation, which you don't get much on trail. So that was pretty fun. Got down there, and there was a trail angel was originally supposed to pick us up at 4, but he ended up being able to reschedule. We messaged him when we got service, let him know when we were going to be there, and he was down there waiting for us when we got there, which was absolutely fantastic. His name's Outside Jay, and he is the man. Refused any money, did allow us to buy him a meal when we got to Bishop, but that was the only thing that he would take. And then ended up coming back. Runner had already decided she was going to flip up to Chester, and he had heard that. And he was actually, just by happenstance, driving down after he dropped us off at Bishop down to Kennedy Meadows, so he could pick up a couple people to bring him up to Bishop, or up to Chester. So he stopped by Bishop. It's literally on the way. 395 runs all the way up and down on the east side of the Sierras. So picked her up on his way back up, took her to Chester, and she is going to be hiking there. So kind of sad to see her go, but it's the right decision for her. We talked a bit about it. She's got a bit of snow experience, but I think that experience was making her too fearful of what could happen. We're out here hiking. We need to have enough gear to make sure that we're safe, but we also need to have enough food to make sure that we can turn around if we see something that's unsafe, that's outside of our skill level. And she was trying to carry a lot of, ice climbing and technical snow traverse equipment when you can't make 15 plus miles a day when you're carrying that much equipment. It's just not feasible. So she ended up flipping up. We stayed in the Motel 8 and got a great night's sleep, a shower, some good food. I went to, there's Mammoth Gear Exchange right there. You probably didn't see that. But there's a couple of gear stores here. Mammoth Gear Exchange has mostly used gear. Check them out. They didn't have anything interesting. Went down to the other gear store, Eastside Sports, and ended up buying a Big Agnes Tiger Wall 1-person ultralight. So I sent my tarp and bivy home today, as well as my crampons. The crampons are great, great enough. They're a little bit cumbersome to wear, but not terrible. The problem with them is that they weigh 2 pounds and they don't do much more than micro spikes, based on my experience in the past week. So me and Runner were the only two with crampons. Hers were crampons that you could summit Everest in. Mine were Katula K10s, which are more for hiking. They don't have the frontward facing spikes, and they're only 3/4 inch, not super aggressive. But in the snow that we're seeing, we're planning everything so that when we hit these passes in the real sketchy areas, we're doing it when the snow's pretty hard and in good condition. So it really isn't that necessary, at least from my experience the past week, to have the crampons. It just buys you probably an extra hour where you have decent grip in the snow. But the difference in the length, you've got like 3/8 of an inch or so on the micro spikes and 3/4 of an inch. So they're twice as long, which does buy you some. But once that sun comes up, we're at 10,000 plus feet elevation, the vast majority of the hiking that we're doing. And when you're up that high, the sun just absolutely bakes that snow as soon as it touches it. So it's pretty powerful. I was telling some people earlier today, the Sierras is the only place that I know of where you can literally be uncomfortably cold when you're in shade, like when there's a cloud over the sun. And as soon as the sun comes back up, you're uncomfortably hot. The only time, at least with the current weather that we've had, that I'm legitimately comfortable is like when you're under the shade of a tree, but the sun is still out. That's just, the ambient temperature in shade is probably like 45, 50 degrees, but you get in the sun and you feel like it's 90. So that sun penetrating and melting the top couple layers of snow, turning it into slush. A couple of days ago, towards the end of the day, I think I talked about it. We were sliding down a hill, and I had crampons on, right? So they're not doing me any favors there. They might add an extra hour where I have a little bit better traction, but with how we're doing our hike and how we're timing the sketchy passes, I really don't feel that they benefited me in any way, shape, or form. And they're 2 extra pounds that I don't have to carry now. So sent those home. There's a bridge that's closed at like mile 850-ish, 855, something like that. The recommended reroute from the PCT is to hop off at Bishop Pass, make your way from the South Lake Trailhead to the North Lake Trailhead, which is a 12-mile road endeavor, whether you walk it, hitch it, or other. And then I think about a 16-mile hike down Butte Pass to get into back to the PCT, which is only like 2.5 miles north of where the bridge is damaged. But so that was our original game plan. And then this morning we moved from the Motel 8 over to the hostel to get, back with some hikers and save a little bit of money. And there was a group that was getting ready to head out. They had just come off of Bishop Pass, so they had done the section they were planning on getting ready to do, and they were getting ready to go back out on Bishop instead of Butte Pass because they'd heard that the bridge was passable. And they had some photos, and I got to agree with them. It looks like it's probably doable. It is damaged, and my guess is that the PCTA just doesn't want any liability if somebody gets hurt on it, so they're telling everybody to go around. But to me, it looks like it's safe to go across. So I did get one of the hikers in that group. I got their satellite communication information, their inReach address, and they should be going over that bridge probably Thursday-ish, which will be before we get out there. And he's going to shoot me a message and let me know if they made it across and if there's anything to be concerned about with regards to that crossing. So right now, with that being our tentative game plan, we're going to pack up 8 days worth of food. We're going to hop on Kearsarge Wednesday morning, so it's Monday now. And we're going to make it all the way to Mammoth in 8 days. So that's a bit of a stretch. Last stretch was the longest resupply I'd ever done at that point, and now this will be the longest. Even more one day and a few more miles. So total miles, I think trail miles we're getting off at like 903. So it'd be about 115, 113 trail miles. Plus Kearsarge Pass, add an extra 12 on there, or 7 if you don't want to count the road walk. And that's what we're going to be doing next resupply. But we do have enough food that if that bridge turns out to be sketchier than we like, we can turn around and exit. We're not forcing ourselves and removing decision. And we're going in with as much information as we can. So feel good about what our decisions are. Now, as far as getting back on trail, we only did 2 miles yesterday, zeroed today, and tomorrow is going to be another trail zero. So that's just kind of the logistics of the Sierras. That's part of why I wanted to get the desert done as soon as I could, because I knew things would slow down both trail mileage wise as well as town time in the Sierras, because that's just the nature of the beast. In order to there's 300 miles from Kennedy Meadows to Reds Meadows, from mile 703 until 1006 before there's a road crossing. So that's a long ways. In order to get out, you've got to go over a pass to get out of the Sierras and down to the east side of the Sierras where you can get to a town and resupply. The only other options are like Reds Meadows or VVR and those type of resorts aren't open yet. VVR is not taken, not opening for hikers to get resupply packages until the 18th, which is 13 days from now. So 13 days from now, VVR should hopefully be in our rearview mirror, and we should already be, off the trail at Mammoth and probably back on the trail on our way to Lake Tahoe. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But that's the game plan right now. So Kearsarge, the side we got to go up first, the eastern facing side. Since it's eastern facing, as soon as the sun comes up, it starts to hit and melt that snow. So we really want to hit that probably within the first 2 hours of daylight to make sure that we get some good traction in the snow. So instead of getting back on trail tomorrow, we're going to do as much as we can tomorrow, which is get back down to the trailhead, do the 5-mile road walk, and potentially do a mile or two on Kearsarge Pass to get as close to the actual pass as we can. So we can hit that first thing in the morning, because once we do the 7.5 mile trail walk on Kearsarge, it puts us back on the PCT only about 2 or 3 miles south of where Glen Pass is. So we're going to have to hit 2 passes in one day, which is why it's pretty crucial that we start as early as possible so we get the snow while it's still in decent condition. So that's the plan for now, and just push on through. Try to average minimum 15 miles a day. 15 miles a day makes it an 8.3 day food carry, but we're packing out a little bit of food, and we're planning on 15 kind of being the minimum. That might not be the case. There's always unexpected things that happen. We could run into a creek and have to do a diversion going up or downstream. We might have to sit and wait for the creek to go down. Those are the sorts of things that we might run into. So we've got enough food. We've got a little bit of a buffer if we need to. We can pace kind of where we're at, and when you have that much food, 8 days worth of food, you can kind of stretch that out, ration yourself a little bit, stretch it into 9 if you need to, 10 if you absolutely have to. So that's kind of the game plan right now. We'll see how things go. Definitely sad to see Runner go. We did get another member of our group, Big Green. He was one we were kind of waffling back and forth with. He's a little bit of a later riser. However, he said that he is gonna try to start waking up a little bit earlier for the better snow. But he kept hiking until like 7 p.m. and we'd wake up the next morning and his mushy tracks would be nice and easy to follow, which was great. So we'd follow his tracks about 4 or 5 miles and catch up with him, and then we'd hike together most of the day. We'd stop and he'd keep going. So I think he's going to get a little bit more on our schedule and what we've been doing. So we'll see. I am excited about having the tent. I love the tarp and bivvy, but it was just getting to be too cumbersome setting it up every single day. I'd get to camp, other people would be setting up and they'd be laying down relaxing, and I'm still fiddling around with the tarp. I love the tarp and bivvy setup, but the biggest reason why I love it is the simplicity and the ability to just set up the bivvy. Just setting up the bivvy, being able to look at the stars but still have that bug protection was absolutely phenomenal in the desert section. But now that we're a little bit further north, now that we're sleeping on snow sometimes, now that we're getting to camp, I'm just absolutely exhausted and want to take a nap. I think it's going to be really nice to have a tent there that just sets up a little bit easier. I am taking just a little bit of a weight penalty on it, gaining I think about half a pound or so, maybe a pound. I'd have to take a look at my lighter pack, but for what it's given me, I'm pretty excited for it. And I did also just want to give a big shout out. I don't want to put out particulars or anything like that, but I didn't didn't ask for it, but did receive just an absolutely generous gift from my Aunt Lori and Uncle Paul to kind of help out and offset that cost. And, just, been hit a couple of times with overwhelming gratitude for, my family, both immediate as well as extended, and the amount of support that I've had during this trip. There's a lot of folks out here that don't have that kind of support, and that's pretty cool. That I have that. I just feel grateful that is my situation. So it is getting a little bit later in the day. I've got one more town chore to do before I go to bed, which is to repair the front mesh on my fanny pack. If you see here, I like to put my phone in here, and there's a little hole right here. I had one on this side that I already patched up, and it's starting to hole up again. So I think I'm gonna fix them and then just stop putting my phone there. The corners of the phone just beat it up. Anytime I brush against something, it rubs it, and that fabric obviously is designed to handle that. So I got a little shoulder pocket right here that I think I'm gonna end up putting my phone in, and that'll just have to be just fine. I'll use that front mesh pocket on my fanny pack for something else. But it's we got a good game plan. I feel happy and comfortable about what we're doing out here. And honestly, nothing so far has been legitimately sketchy. There was a little bit of rock scramble going up Whitney that was pretty steep, but I felt safe the whole time. Had 3 points of contact when I needed to, made sure that I was safe and I wasn't going to take a fall or anything like that. And I expect that after talking to a few people, that with the exception of a couple of the passes, that's for the most part how all the Sierras are. It's hiking, it's not ice climbing, it's not mountain climbing. The biggest legitimate hazard out here is not the snow, it's the snow melt. So hitting the Sierras, being as early in June as it is a good thing. A lot of the snow bridges are still there. That was the report that the other group gave us on the next section, is that plenty of snow bridges, no sketchy creek crossings, at least until Bishop Pass. Obviously, they don't know what's north of that because they haven't been there. But that's all good signs, because I think the biggest thing that could reroute me and get me off of the Sierras are rivers or creek crossings that are just truly impassable. And if that happens, that happens. You take it as it comes, and you either divert around and start, on the other side of that creek from the other side, or if it looks like it's going to be multiple creeks and it's just not logistically feasible or reasonable, you flip up and you do what you got to do. Everybody's out here for different reasons, and I absolutely support anybody's decision about their hike. If they want to flip, skip, whatever they want to do, hike your own hike and do your own thing. But for me, I'm planning on starting in Mexico and going north until there's something unsafe or a reason why I absolutely can't. So for right now, that's the game plan, and we're going to keep chugging along and just take it one day at a time, one resupply at a time, whatever we need to do, and just keep chugging along. Just keep on trudging, putting one foot in front of each other. So just a quick look around. Bishop is a beautiful city. We're kind of off the main drag. The main drag's over there, but it's kind of cool. You got the mountains just right there off in the distance, and then mountains that way. It really is kind of set in between two ridges of mountains, and it's a pretty cool town, pretty cool place to be. I've enjoyed it, but I'm definitely ready to get back on trail, and I'm kind of sad that tomorrow's not the day. Yeah, I'll be sleeping at the trailhead tomorrow, but I'm ready to march out some more miles. Me personally, I'm not a town guy. I like coming into town, getting one night in a bed like we did last night. But after that, I start to get a little antsy, and that's a little bit about where I'm at right now. Glad we had as much time as we did in town, because it took us a while to get all the planning, chores, and all that done. But tomorrow we're catching a bus around noon, heading down to Independence, thumbing it down to the trailhead, and getting back as close to trail as we can, and I'm ready for it. And I'm glad we're skipping Bishop next time. The Sierras takes a lot of time, and if we can, cut out an extra town day, an extra delay, I think that's going to really help us as we move forward. Because, like I said, the snow bridges aren't going to be here forever, but the longer that we can have them, the easier it's going to be to get from point A to point B. So here's to hoping, and until next time. Hey, it is Tuesday the 6th, 4:45 p.m. Just got camp set up here. We were really fortunate. We took a bus from Bishop down to Independence, and then we're able to catch a ride. It took us about half an hour to get a ride. We were sitting there hitching, and the road just wasn't that busy, but we were close to the post office there, so Big Green ran over, saw a guy that was didn't look like he was in too much of a hurry, had room in the back of his truck, and was just getting ready to leave the post office, and we just gave him $20 to give us a ride on up here. And turns out that the 5-mile road closure that we thought we were going to need to walk was actually opened up, so we were able to get a ride all the way up here. Haven't hiked it all today. So that is 2 full zeros in a row. That's the first time I've double zeroed, and hopefully, I don't know about hopefully the last, but a little more rest than I would have liked. But given the circumstance, having hike 12 and a half miles to get off of Kearsarge Pass and out of the Sierras, makes sense to take a little bit of rest. And plus, there's no point in trying to hit Kearsarge Pass too late in the evening. So game plan right now, we're gonna be hiking by 3 a.m. tomorrow, try and get over Kearsarge super early, right as the sun's rising. Once the sun comes up, you've only got about an hour and two on an eastern facing slope until it starts to turn into slush. So we want to hit that as fast as we can, and then still hit Glen Pass before the heat of the day, so before probably about 11 o'clock, noon at the absolute latest. Glen is not a particularly sketchy pass, and we already start about 1,000 feet up. When we connect into the PCT, we did that before we got off where the Kearsarge exit is. So shouldn't be too terrible, but definitely want to get that early start, get any major incline done before it gets too hot in the day. But here we are in my tent. I am living, I feel like a king, man. I got more space. I'm actually sitting up. That's why I've never done any videos in the bivvy. There wasn't room to sit up. I do love the bivvy, but the easy use of this, the little bit of extra space, I think it's going to be worth the weight penalty for in the Sierras. Nice, a little bit nicer to set up on snow. I've got my little vestibule right here. I think it's just going to be a little bit simpler and easier. Just costs a little bit of weight penalty, which I think, like I said, is going to be worth it. But here we are. It's not super spacious, but it does have a ton of pockets. I don't even know what to do with all these pockets. So, sorry about that. I'm sure you can hear the stream outside trickling. That's just snow melt coming off. So we got water source right here, which is nice. And gonna have dinner here probably in about 45 minutes. Try to get to sleep as early as I possibly can, wake up early, and head on back in. So, till next time.